Welcome to the Block Exploring Podcast, your first step into the world of crypto and blockchain. The Block Exploring Podcast is your one-stop place to find quick, clear, and unbiased information on everything in the crypto space. Our goal is to help you grow familiar with the crypto space by growing along with us as we go on our crypto journeys. Follow @Block Exploring on Twitter for our newest uploads and our publishing schedule. We, here at Block Exploring, are crypto enthusiasts working hard towards becoming experts. Today's podcast is presented by co-hosts Tommy and Elias. Find us on Twitter under @SabaiSquared and @OtokoCrypto. Right now you can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Before we start the episode, we would like to inform you that we are not financial advisors. Therefore, nothing said in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Always contact your financial advisor before making any investment. With that said, sit back and enjoy today's podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 12 of the Block Exploring podcast. This week we'll be talking to you about the state of the market, the 4 billion options expiring on Bitcoin and Ethereum, some news sentiment analysis, and some NFT discussion. And then lastly, we'll be talking about EIP 1559 and the London Hard Fork. So, let's kick it off. Tommy, $4 billion worth of Bitcoin and Ethereum options are expiring. What's
Yep.
your sentiment?
Well, so they expired, and it's just the extent to which they actually affect the price is some experts say yes, some experts say no, but I think overall people get the general sense that it does affect the price. So inevitably, we've seen the Bitcoin price stumble as a result, and so has ETH. I think crypto in general has struggled quite a bit in the last 24 hours at least. And although earlier this week, I feel like we saw quite a nice rebound.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there was a pretty decent rebound, but it's like, I feel like the rebounds that you see right now, they aren't as strong as they used to be, like they're quite quickly corrected by bears, it seems, and by larger players who have a certain selling point set.
Definitely. And it depends how you feel about the market and depends what you prescribe to, but yeah, it's a very volatile situation right now in the market, at least for the short term. Some of us prescribe to this idea that we're still in the Wyckoff pattern, of which, at this point you might think that we're still in an accumulation phase that might lead to a big bullish uptick in the coming days. That seems to be the pattern that's being followed at the moment. I like to think that this might be the case, just because Bitcoin and Ethereum have been heavily manipulated, and Bitcoin more so, and everything else follows. But I think there is reason to believe that we might see some very bullish activity in the near future, but for the short term it's still going to be incredibly volatile. And I can see why that people would be uncertain. There's just a lot when I look at social media, YouTube influencers and that, there's a lot of FUD going around in general. Big Twitter accounts will do polls about how people feel, and a lot of people feel a bit shaky about the market. And it's not that they want to leave crypto or whatever, but they're just uncertain about how and what is going to happen in the near future, and people are quite emotional about it because you shouldn't really be emotional about your investments and the money that you put in, but it's only human.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also this thing is, you have to take into account that in 2017, 2014, there were percentage-wise, similar crashes throughout the bull market. And now the amounts are just a bit bigger. It sounds a lot bigger to go from 50K in euros, this is for Bitcoin, to 30K.
Yeah.
But going from like $100 to, what was it, 25, that happened as well, and it rebounded. I think
back then
it sounds more.
yeah, back then it crashed, and then it reached all-time highs again, which is maybe something we might even see again in this bull cycle, which a lot
Yeah.
of people say is unlikely because you got to think about who's gonna push it to that new level.
Yeah. And it's hard to estimate also what this new level will be. Like a lot of people were saying when every crypto trader was a genius, when it was extremely bullish,
Yeah,
um, and everyone was hitting like 4x's and 5x's, and it was like, oh man, you can buy any coin and you just become rich.
yeah,
When that kind of vibe was going on the market, you saw like this big difference in the way kind of people went about it, and there was a lot more security. And now we're dipping, and a lot of people are no longer geniuses, and they're no longer making those epic yields.
mm-hmm.
So you have to see, and it's also a matter of like what's your long-term vision, I think, because a lot of people are
Exactly.
saying, oh, Bitcoin's
Yeah.
going to 100,000 this bull run.
Mm-hmm.
um, is it, or will it still, or will it in the long term? Set your goal. Is your goal that number of 100,000 and then you want to cash out, or is your number, oh, I want to reach 100,000 and then buy more? And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't know what their goals are
Strategy
with
is,
crypto.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's understandable, of course, because it's it's a very new
Mm-hmm.
asset class, and it's highly unpredictable. So it
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. I feel like if you're long term in crypto, it's very easy to sleep at night. Much easier, at
Yeah,
least, unless you're an insomniac. Yeah, it's much easier to sleep at night if you have a long term outlook, a long term strategy, and you're not carrying big bags in these obscure coins, that you've dumped a lot of money in, to get
yeah,
these astronomical gains. But if you've, really allocated yourself in a way that, in cryptos that are, have viability in the long term, that you can really trust in, and you're all about that long term, you know so that
yeah.
really helps. So if anything, you can have a short term, midterm, strategy, but at least have that long term as well. I think
Yeah.
that might be essential.
No, I agree, and that's why it's important, I think, to look at crypto, especially in the long term. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's you can do swing trading, you can do low cap altcoin gem hunting, and all that. Super
Yeah.
fun and super dangerous stuff, which isn't as dangerous in a massive bull run
All right.
because all the projects are taking off. But yeah, it definitely in a more volatile state of the market as we are experiencing now, it's I think long-term investments are your more secure kind of ways of investing
Mm-hmm.
at the moment.
And one of the best ways to be long term in crypto and blockchain is to build. Is to
Yeah,
build, start building a project, start getting involved in a project, and you don't have to be a developer to start or get involved with a crypto project either, or a blockchain project. There's so many different skills that are needed to bring a project to fruition.
yeah,
And if I'm very sure you have one of those skills that are necessary, to contribute to that. And if not, learn and get involved, or get involved with a DAO. In a DAO, I think me and Elias recently got involved with a DAO, and it's awesome.
yeah.
There's so
It is.
much to do. So many people involved as well. So there's a lot to
Yeah,
learn.
I mean, I think it's something we can shout out, right?
Yeah, yeah, for
The
sure.
Bankless DAO from the
Yeah.
Bankless podcast. It's a really cool project. I was kind of amazed in how fast it I was like allowed to contribute, and just as general experience also with like like more
Mhm.
internet community based projects in the crypto space. I think that this was yeah, it's very well executed, and it's a very good introduction to
Mhm.
a person who really wants to get in but doesn't have as much programmer expertise. Like Tommy and I are both in like the legal guilds, and I do some Dutch translation for the project, and it's
Mhm.
just overall a super nice way to get more familiar with these projects on a more in-depth level.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so much to do and so many people to get connected with. I think it's just beneficial on so many levels to get involved with the DAO. And it's really interesting to see like how Ethereum or crypto in general can be used as like many people have talked about it, how it's a tool for coordination and moving resources, and a DAO is a perfect example of that. And just you can just see it once you're inside a DAO, the efficiency of how people mobilize each other, and it's fantastic to see. It's definitely, shout outs to the Bankless DAO, but there are loads of other DAOs out there. So just kind of find one that suits what you're about and what their mission is. If that aligns with yours, get involved.
Yeah, and DAOs are super interesting. Decentralized autonomous organizations. It's some people even say, like we had like DeFi and we had like the summer of DeFi, and they're saying that DAOs are the DeFi of the future, hype wise and yield wise. So it's definitely something I think newer crypto traders want to familiarize themselves with, and to also kind of see the long term promise of mass adoption in crypto. I think a DAO is one of those kind of technical inventions that are that definitely show the promise of this like application on a larger scale and outside of just currency as well.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see in the future how DAOs evolve and how society evolves in relation to DAOs, especially in regards to employment, because I'm sure a lot of these DAOs aren't just trying to rely on the good graces of their DAO members to get stuff done. And DAOs will start looking towards paying dividends to their members of the DAO, paying salaries to people who are contributing substantial work to the DAO. And that's just an interesting paradigm shift from getting a salary, getting paid from from like a boss in a company, to getting paid from a decentralized autonomous organization that's owned by everyone essentially, which is pretty sick.
It is really
pretty
sick.
Bankless, pretty crypto, pretty blockchain. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, and I think one of the things for our like more long-term focused listeners, something you might also want to do if you want to sleep a bit better is not listen too much to the news, because if you look at the larger, more traditional investment banks like JP Morgan, they constantly publish stuff that is basically creating their own dip, if you would ask me.
Mad FUD.
Example of it, just generate some FUD, generate your own dip, then you always have a good entry point, right?
Exactly.
And JP Morgan released a note to their investors, I think it was a few days ago, where it reasoned why it only values Bitcoin between $23,000 and I think it was like $36,000 on like the midterm kind of like aspect. And in the past, when it was extremely bullish, they valued it at like $150,000. And I think their original reasoning was because it matched kind of like the volatility of gold, blah blah blah. And now it's because the price is lower, and I don't know, it's like a lot of hocus pocus, a lot of investor jargon, TA jargon, terms like alpha are being thrown around in this node constantly. Realize that these people or these larger investment banks have a massive kind of interest in how these prices move, and they also realize that they have a massive platform, and like a lot of like people take their reports very seriously. And I mean, maybe they should on the short term, but they take them very seriously. So it's important to take it into account, especially if you want to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Especially the investment bank like JP Morgan. Bitcoin is huge enemy to these established institutions. So if they're gonna want to have a hand in affecting the price or putting themselves in a better position to deal with Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency for that matter. So they're just leveraging the power that they do have. But I think why many of us get into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and blockchain is because we want to be free from all this, market manipulation, currency manipulation, and have sovereignty over certain aspects of certain things in our life, have that freedom of choice to do this, that, the other. And crypto, blockchain, and allows us to do that in many instances. But I feel like the road to getting to that point where there is mass adoption, there's people's full ability to do many of the stuff that the principles of blockchain and cryptocurrencies were made for. It's going to be a bumpy ride for because these institutions will not make it easy, and there's a lot of people who have interest in not making it an easy ride. But
I think there's like these larger institutions, they generally tend to not want to give up the massive point of power that they have at the moment. Like your average bank, your bank owns your money. You just have a right to withdraw it. In the Netherlands, there's like this thing called the guarantee regulations of the Dutch banks. If a bank goes bankrupt, there's a hard cap of 250,000 euros that you can get refunded, and after that, it all is lost. And I think maybe for most people that's not an issue, because most people they don't have 250,000 euro in saving, but it shows a mentality towards your money. That you don't truly own it. You just have a right to interact with it and use it. And that's that's where we're going. That's the development we're seeing. And of course, these banks and these larger institutions, they have that power now. They own your money. And I mean, I get it. If I was JP Morgan, I wouldn't want to give up that privilege either,
But that's also why, in the crypto blockchain space, people say not your keys, not your crypto, like not your coins. That's exactly what it is, right? You got to own your keys to your coins. That's what it's about, being your own bank and making your own decisions about your own money. And that comes with a level of responsibility and a level of freedom that you need to reconcile. A lot of risk as well, but it's a lot of freedom, and there's something gratifying about gratifying. Is that the right word? Maybe not. Freeing about that.
Freeing.
Yeah.
You know who definitely feels free right now? The citizens of El Salvador, because they are all eligible for a
future big ballers.
Future big ballers. It's just like how much Bitcoin are they eligible for? Just because they're citizens?
Not a certain. They're able to get a free airdrop of $30 worth of Bitcoin. So however much Bitcoin that is at the time that they get the airdrop, but that's what the El Salvadorian government is doing to spread mass adoption within the country and get people on the services which they'll be able to interact with Bitcoin, buy, sell, trade. They're very much going to be using the Lightning Network. I believe Strike is helping them implement that infrastructure, and a bunch of other companies and projects probably. But this is super cool, and I think you said it earlier. This sort of shows what's possible with governmental adoption or imposed mass adoption of Bitcoin in a country.
No, definitely, and I think it also shows like the maybe the more boring bullish signals that are still very much present, and maybe not in the short term will have a massive effect. But I think it shows through all the fudge, through all the manipulation and kind of like bad PR that larger institutions try to give regarding cryptocurrency in general. There are still those who are pushing this, and it's like a domino effect. If one pushes it, and somehow El Salvador hedges itself against inflation like no other, then others will follow, guaranteed.
Right. Yeah, that'd be very cool to see. If there's huge hyperinflation as a result of the overprinting of the US dollar, and El Salvador is the one that weathers the storm the best because they made Bitcoin legal tender. I think El Salvador is just going to be a very interesting case study in the future for the first implementation of Bitcoin as legal tender in a country, and what effects did that have over time in so many ways, maybe to the price of Bitcoin over time, to the livelihoods of the people in El Salvador. That'll be very interesting just to watch unfold. And yeah, you're right. I think it's a domino effect, and many countries are watching El Salvador for what happens there before.
Yeah, but I think it's also interesting to note that sure, like El Salvador is doing this on a much more, I think, direct and more effective way of implementing. But there are already other countries that did it a very long time ago, and I think Japan, they have the PSA, Payment Services Act, and they did this in like 2017, 2018.
But they never made it legal tender, did they?
They never made it legal tender, yeah. Exactly. But they did see it as a valid currency with similar legal properties, meaning that if you cash out, you don't pay a lot of the taxation that you would in case of a
commodity, or any other asset, really,
or like like more of a securities-based investment. You don't pay all of that, and it makes it much more simple to use something like Bitcoin. And I think it's still important to note that even now, with a progressive country like El Salvador, or Bitcoin-wise,
in this respect,
progressive country, in this respect, to note that others are doing it as well, but just on a much more conservative scale.
Which is natural. It shows.
I think it's natural, especially for a country like Japan, which is fairly conservative. I think it's important to note that the progression is there, and no one is ever going to tell you, hey, but like the future is this and this and this, and this is how everything will develop itself. You really have to look at the boring regulatory stuff. You have to look at the implementation. You have to look at how many wallets are being opened worldwide, to kind of see, how far are we actually in this adoption, and how reasonable is it to assume that mass adoption will ever happen. And I think it's unstoppable at this point already. But for some people, it will take a lot more wallets being used and a lot more currency being put into the market. Like right now, we're at like 2.5 trillion or something, or 2.2 trillion. For some people, it's going to be like 100 trillion needs to be put into this market for it to be considered like a valid option. For other people, it's 3 trillion, and for some it was like $5. I think it's really it's something to take into account.
Definitely. Yeah. It's interesting developments, man. It'll be it's something we have to watch closely, but it's just one of many developments that are happening in the crypto blockchain space. Like there's so much happening in respects to NFTs, for example. NFTs like Sotheby's, which is an auction house, one of the most famous and the biggest auction houses around the world. They've put on auction first five CryptoPunk prints now for auction, which is something that's happening. We see news that like Marvel is going to release its first official NFT collectibles, and Marvel is a huge brand. Marvel's huge. That'll bring a lot of people. I mean, I think everyone knows about NFTs. I mean, I'm saying that as someone who's like very active in the space, but I feel like everyone and their grandmother knows about NFTs, But I think, if anything, like these, maybe people know about NFTs, but are they engaging with NFTs? Maybe not. Maybe they are. So, more companies or projects and such who get involved with NFTs, like Marvel will probably have the effect of bringing more people to actually engage with NFTs, which is ultimately more bullish for NFTs in the long term, because NFTs haven't had as much hype as they did a couple of months ago.
No.
With some news reports saying there's like a 90% drop in NFT volume, or the value of NFTs, and that, which
Yeah.
I think is normal. I mean, like, with
Especially if something
any
is.
goods, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the survival of the fittest, and some won't survive. Like, and they shouldn't survive if they're not good, projects. If people don't want them, if people don't care about them, they'll fail. You know.
No, I agree.
Mhm.
I I was thinking about this as well. Like, it makes a lot of sense that the market at that point in time, in like quarter 1, was that large, because a lot of people were seeing NFTs as like kind of like a secondary form of investing. You know,
Mhm.
there was a lot of investment narrative, I think, for generating scarcity and like
Mhm.
generating digital commodities.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You know, that's I think that's where the NFT space shines, and especially in like making more, uh, tangible assets online
Yeah.
accessible to more people. That's 100%, I think, the way NFTs will shine in the future. And like intellectual property is much fairer, I
Mhm.
would say, when using NFTs,
Yeah.
and a whole lot less restrictive, because the patents and stuff there will just be like purchasable in a way, if you use NFTs to market them. So
Ooh, I
I
hadn't
think
thought
it
about
makes
that. That's
sense.
interesting.
Yeah, I was
Patent
looking into that
licensing
because
through NFTs.
yeah,
That's a very interesting idea. Oh,
right.
yeah,
So
but I think over time, we'll start seeing what really makes NFT. I mean, I think the best projects will just float to the top, and we'll see more and more of
mhm,
that over time. And there's just a process of right now everyone's kind of seeing everything and seeing a lot of things fail maybe. But over
yeah,
time you'll just see, the good projects, they'll have their longevity. I think projects like Top Shot, they're going to be around
mhm,
for uh for ages. They're going to move into um UFC, UFC, moments, and NFTs. That's like a huge thing. Projects like
yeah,
CryptoPunks are just like god status in internet culture at the
yeah,
moment. Those that will never go away. CryptoPunks, or what's not like the Bored Ape Club. Those
yeah,
that project is so hype right now. Like everyone's talking about Bored Ape Club.
yeah,
Everyone wants a Bored Ape. NBA players have bought Bored Apes, and like they recently did this thing where they airdropped holders this
yeah,
blank dog, so bored dog, I suppose.
hmm,
But even the blank, which so this dog would then, like, at a certain date, it's already passed, reveal itself as as another collectible with different properties and stuff as well, which
cool,
already started selling. Black, the blank dogs were selling for low, like a very high
yeah,
amount
yeah,
of ETH. But I think now that they've been unveiled and you can see what properties you get, I think one sold for like 40 ETH. Well, one
oh,
with really rare properties apparently sold for 40 ETH. That's a lot of money for an NFT. So it's
yeah,
pretty cool to see that, like, if you got a good project, if you've got good marketing and hype and a community behind. I think it's the community really, because the Bored Ape Club have a sick community that's really involved, very like engaged, and out there.
yeah. I think we discussed this a while back, right?
Hmm.
Like the millennial adoption of crypto, and I think that definitely NFTs, when it comes to art, will be like the next. You know how like dudes who are born in the '60s, they
they like still collect like baseball cards and like
Oh yeah.
football cards and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like dudes who are born in like the 80s, 90s, like or like early 90s, late 90s, they collect like Pokemon cards like the Charizard and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are starting to sell for more and more. I feel like the physical aspect of these kind of collectibles are becoming less and less important to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
That
that
makes
just the
sense.
fact that that they're not common,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that gives it like its
For
sales
sure.
point right now.
For
That
sure.
it's more and more, it becomes more and more abstract in the way the value is represented. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that with NFTs, this will, I think the next okay, warning, block exploring, hot take, the next like collectible hype, you know, like how we started with like baseball cards, now we have Pokemon cards. I think the next hype will be an NFT of some larger brand that will
Mm-hmm.
be collected by people in like 50 years.
Yeah, imagine that. I think what's great about NFTs. I mean, you can talk about like a Pokemon card collecting community. You can talk
Hmm.
about, baseball card collecting community. I've not part of these communities, so I can't like speak on them.
Hmm.
Um, to the inclusivity or the activity or but in the NFT space, like you can really tell that, like, with these projects they really build a community that's really about that project and about that life. So I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that adds value to these projects, is if you have like a strong community that actually
Hmm.
makes people want to be a part of that community, and that then adds more value to the NFT itself.
Yeah,
That's boss moves right there. That's
definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking about the community,
Mm-hmm.
we said we're gonna talk about the London Hard Fork and all these improvement proposals that we've
Yeah.
been seeing from Ethereum. I think it's a extremely bullish movement that we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing right now regarding EIP 1559 and the London Hard Fork. But I think it's also important to note, as like a maybe a final note to today's episode, that even though this London Hard Fork is incoming, there are so many more Ethereum improvement
Mm-hmm.
proposals that are, you know, currently active or looked forward to. Example of it is EIP 3074. Man, they should name these things more engagingly, but
But I think that they
you
they
know,
eventually do, right? Because
yeah,
EIP one
eventually
one
they do.
five nine London, and before that there was Paris. This might get
Exactly.
something eventually, but
Yeah. And but like, yeah, it's gonna fix one of the most overlooked security issues in Ethereum, and I think
Mhm.
that's like the approval-based security issues. So I think definitely these are extremely bullish developments that we're seeing, and the London Hard Fork upgrade, the testnet was launched, and in one day 100,000 uh, was staked on ETH2.
Mhm.
So
That's incredibly
like
bullish
that's
for
one
ETH,
day.
I think.
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, to think
and
that $100,000 was locked up in 2 days,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. I mean, that's that many people who are willing to lock up their ETH and are bullish long term. So I think that's
yeah,
what's key, right? These people are bullish long term. That I
yeah,
think that should signal a lot more to the current investor or to the short term, midterm investor who's not very clear about the long term longevity of ETH, is how many people are locking up money long term. You know.
yeah. No, definitely. And if you see that it happens in one day, you
Mhm.
know, yeah, but you don't see it reflect in the price movement of Ethereum at all. You know,
Yeah.
like this is an incredibly bullish sentiment. Ethereum will become deflationary instead of inflationary.
Hmm.
It's like a crazy, yeah, it's like a crazy amount of development that will come.
Which is why
So
people are so excited about July for the London upgrade. And London
yeah,
upgrade in the grand scheme of Ethereum development is just like the start.
yeah,
The start of like a lot of developments that's gonna push Ethereum into just a different stratosphere of what from where it is now. And like Bitcoin maxis will always like hate on Ethereum, talk about slow developments, talk about how unnecessary this development is, will it ever happen, blah 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 blah. Bruh, it's happening.
Yeah.
Things are happening. People are locking up money, and people believe in this project.
Yeah.
They're enough to lock up so much ETH. So
Yeah.
that doesn't tell you anything about the community and the people behind ETH, bro. I don't know. You're all just hating. Oh, you're hating at this point. Just hating.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you look at things like, the EIP 3074, just to give some context, what that will do is it will allow a user, if approved, it will allow a user to approve a transfer, execute an action, so like a smart contract, and then revoke the approval in one transaction. And this is like really relevant to the ERC20 tokens, especially. This will kind of make him less of a second-grade citizen, which is one of the most commonly referred to kind of like
Critiques,
bad aspects of the critiques on Ethereum, that the ERC20 tokens are second-grade citizens. And I mean, they still will be, but at least they'll be like maybe like 1.5 grade citizens. This is a massive improvement.
No, definitely.
So
definitely. But that's why we're bullish in long term. We're bullish long term ETH. We're bullish long term crypto, long term blockchain. It is what it is. You guys should be too. No investment advice, but you know how we feel.
Exactly, that's how we feel. It is what it is on the Block Exploring podcast.
Yep.
Tune in next time for some major news. Every week we are here telling you the deets. Tune in next time.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.